All right, so we had some technical difficulties on Sunday. We recorded the message. That's why this looks a little different. I'm at a coffee shop, so who knows what you're going to hear? Who knows what's going to happen? But that's kind of fun, right? So Sunday, recorded the message, got home, and I have a little SD card slot on my computer, and I was moving my computer and banged that SD card against something and it broke. So I lost the message from Sunday before I had a chance to get it off the hard drive. So what I thought I would do is just re-record it in this format. It's gonna be a little different, but the content's still gonna be the same. And so I wanted to, sorry, I got like a setup happening right now. But I wanted to give this message because I think it's so important for our church, and especially for those of you that are about to take your freedom journey. This is a good, prologue to what's coming. And so anyway, hope you're having a good week. Again, I'm at a coffee shop. I don't know how loud it's going to be, but I just want to dive in and to this message a little bit. But I want to start by talking to some people who were from a different time. Come on. Y'all know, you grew up in the 80s, 90s, maybe even before that. And, you grew up drinking Red 40, baby. You loved it. You know what I'm saying? You grew up drinking out of the garden hose in the backyard. That's how you got water, and who knows what was in that thing. You didn't know, what a gluten intolerance was. I mean, what the heck is that? I didn't know kale existed until like 10 years ago, but we grew up at a different time. I remember going on road trips when I was a kid, and we would roll up a foam mattress topper, like the egg foam mattress topper, and we would put it in between the back seats and the front seats. And my brother would lay on that. I would lay down on the back seats, and we'd just sleep through the night while my dad drove. After looking back, I mean, the Joker was tired, I'm sure. I mean, it was insane. We would never do that now, but that's how we grew up. We didn't have iPads. There was no TV in the car, at least not in our car. I mean, it was just pure, unadulterated boredom. And that's how I grew up. We would ride our bikes and not come back until it was dinner time. We'd play outside. And I remember we had a trampoline growing up. And I'll just be honest, I didn't know that trampolines had nets on the side until we had kids, because our trampoline didn't have that. I mean, there was no covering around the outside. It was just raw spring trampoline. And man, it would pinch you like crazy. But we didn't have that. But trampoline, when I was growing up, was a wild time. And so what we would do is we would pull up that trampoline to the, underneath a basketball goal, and we would, have dunk contests, have basketball games. We would jump off of the trampoline onto the ground. We would double jump. People would go super high in the air. I mean, we would do everything imaginable on a trampoline. I remember we get the garden hose out there. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, we loved having that trampoline. But next to our trampoline, like in our yard, there was a tree. And one day we decided, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I had probably 6 or 7 years old. And I remember we had this idea, my cousins were over, and I have an older brother, and we had this idea that, man, we were gonna pull, that trampoline over to the tree, climb the tree, jump out of the top of the tree onto the trampoline. And so that's what we did. We put the trampoline over there. We climbed to the top, or my brother and cousins, they would climb to the top and they would jump down. They were having the time of their lives, right? And so I thought, I'm gonna do this. This looks awesome. And so I climb up the tree and I go as far as I go. And when I tell you, I look down, that trampoline looks small. Like it just, I went really far up. I mean, I went up as high as they did, but I was younger. I was the youngest one out there. And I remember looking down and I could not move. I was hugging a tree branch up there, standing up like a treed animal, and I was frozen. I couldn't jump. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I was completely stuck. And so my brother and cousins, they were trying to tell me how awesome it was. And I think they were just not wanting to get in trouble, like they had to go tell my parents, like, hey, Clint's stuck in the tree because we're doing something dumb. They were trying to tell me how fun it was and how you would hit the trampoline and bounce so high. And I believed, I saw them having fun. I believed it, but that fun was not meant for me because I was frozen up there. I could not do it. I was completely stuck. Now, some people in here, or some people listening to this, you have a story just like this, where you've been stuck before. And I got out of the tree. I jumped down. All right, I eventually did it. But some people, you have a story where you're stuck. And here's the thing about being like physically stuck, okay? Physically stuck, it's annoying in the moment, but at least later, it's a funny story, right? Like it's something you can tell people and have a good laugh and all that. But there's a different kind of stuck that doesn't make a very funny story. It's the kind of stuck where you've been reacting the same way to something for years, and it's not the way that you should. Maybe for you, you've been carrying shame about something in your life for decades, and you're stuck in that. Maybe you've been fighting the same fear over the years. Maybe you've gone back to the same pattern. You can't seem to break this pattern. And you just feel like there's nothing I can do to change. This is just who I am. And that's not so funny as being physically stuck. Another thing that we have at our house now, and I think that we're all really good at this, is we have a junk drawer. Anybody got a junk drawer? Or maybe a junk room, did I say drunk room? I meant junk room, and maybe a junk garage. You can't even park your cars in there. We have a junk drawer in our house. And I don't know why we clean it a couple times a year and organize it. And we're like, this is the time. It's not going to turn into a junk drawer. And who are we kidding? We're delusional. Like it's always going to be a junk drawer in our life, but it won't even shut right now. Some of us, we have a junk drawer in our lives where it's a place where you put stuff that you don't want to deal with, or you don't really know where it goes, and you don't really know how to process it. And so you have this place where you keep putting stuff, and maybe it's where that anger and shame or fear, that habit or that secret, it goes. And I want to say secrets aren't necessarily things that like you are doing wrong. Sometimes something bad happened to you and you're ashamed to say it. Sometimes it's just, and that's some of the way our parents raise us, is we don't talk about stuff. We got to put forth this front, right? And so you tuck this secret away into this junk drawer, and you keep trying to shut it, and you hope no one ever opens it. And if I'm honest with you today, and I really want to be honest today, and I want you to be honest with yourself, is I want you to, I know what it's like to love Jesus and still have a drawer in my life that I haven't opened in a long time, or I don't want anyone else to see. But here's the thing about Jesus, is that he's not afraid of your junk drawer. He's not afraid of what you're still carrying, which is why today we're introducing this idea of freedom. We started a series on Sunday called The Pursuit of Freedom. This is the message from Sunday. And I want to take a moment and I want to ask you to just be honest with yourself and see what God has for you today. But I want to take you to a time, this is early in the life of Jesus, and let me get my coffee. And this story shows us exactly what Jesus is, why he came, and why he's able to get to your junk drawer and not be afraid of it a little bit. So he's just getting started in ministry, words kind of spreading about him, people are talking, and all of the places he goes, people show up. And so he goes back to his hometown, and he actually goes back to the synagogue that he probably sat in every single week growing up. You see, the Jewish people had a big temple in Jerusalem, but they also decided, like, man, it's hard for people to get to Jerusalem. let's have little synagogues around, and then they only got to come to Jerusalem once a year, twice a year. And so he shows up to a synagogue, and he stands up, and he's about to preach. He's about to give a little word. And he looks at the person that's got all the scrolls of the Old Testament. It's all in that room, and they all have these in their synagogue. And he says, hey, I need this scroll right here. And so the guy hands him the scroll. And he stands up, he unrolls, and he reads a passage from the book of Isaiah. And what he's about to read, we're about to read in Luke chapter 4, but what he's going to read is word for word what's found in the book of Isaiah. This is a prophecy that Isaiah prophesied, and Jesus is about to read that prophecy. All right, so he gets up. He's this little carpenter's son from Nazareth. He comes back to his hometown after there's all this buzz kind of happening about him. And he picks this. He could talk about anything. He picks this right here. This is his first kind of act of ministry, his first message, really. And he reads from this scroll. Here's what he said. Luke chapter 4, starting in verse 18, he says, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me." Again, he's reading a prophecy from Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me, listen, to proclaim good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, and to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. So let me give you a little quick history lesson, okay? This really matters. He's talking, and when the Jewish people would have heard this, they would have understood this, okay? You might understand this because you don't come from that culture, but they would have understood that this was Jubilee language. You may have heard that word Jubilee, or the year of Jubilee. And that was something that was pretty remarkable that God had set up. You see, he set apart a year, every 50th year, he set it apart where every debt got canceled, every slave was able to be free, the land that you may have lost because of your financial situation or whatever, it actually got given back to you, and it was a total reset for the nation of Israel. And so he's given this language that's saying, hey, like this is happening. And so every 50th year, this would happen. And it was an opportunity for people to be free. They get their land back. They would get their debt canceled. Slaves would be freed. I mean, it was a remarkable thing. And so you can imagine how many people would love that right now? I mean, your debt gets canceled. You get, the thing that you lost back. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But all indications actually tell us that God's people rarely observed the year of Jubilee. Like freedom was in their grasp, and they never did it. And God intended this to prevent generational poverty, to prevent generational slaves. I mean, it was like once a generation, you'd get a reset, big reset button. But the people of Israel, they never really observed this idea that God had come up with, and they never really did it. See, freedom was right there, but it was never taken. And I want you to know the same is true right now. There's a lot of people that are listening to this. There's a lot of people that they need a big reset. You're hearing that go, man, I need my own year of Jubilee, But Jesus stands up, and he stands up in this synagogue, and he says, that big reset, it's me. That thing that Isaiah talked about, it's me. I'm the reset. I'm the thing. And then before anyone can argue with him, he literally shuts the scroll. That's all he says. He shuts the scroll, and he sits back down, and everybody is turning. They're looking at him. And he says this one sentence. He looks at them and says, today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. Jesus is going, hey, it's me. I'm the one that's come to bring freedom, to open up the eyes of the blind, to set the prisoner free. And it's easy to assume, too, that Jesus is maybe talking about actual poor people or actual people who are in prison and all those things. But he cares about those things. But Jesus was talking about the physical and the spiritual. So he was talking about those people who are spiritually poor, that are spiritually imprisoned, that are spiritually blind. They're spiritually oppressed. You see, he's talking about you and me. Because Jesus doesn't only deal with prisons that everybody can see. He looks deeper. He looks underneath the surface. And that's what Jesus is talking to. He says, hey, those things that no one else can see, I'm the answer for it. You know, and I think it's interesting. Jesus didn't walk into the synagogue and he didn't go, all right, guys, you got to quit cussing. You got to start doing that thing. You got to quit doing that. And he didn't go in talking about like behavior modification. He came in and he gave a mission statement. Here's what I'm about. And he's not about making bad people behave. That's certainly something he cares about, but he came to set people free. And so I'm going to read this again, and I want you to hear something. I want you to notice something. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he's anointed me, Jesus, to proclaim the good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Now notice, none of what Jesus said he came to do had anything to do with addressing people's behavior. He didn't say, hey, I came to make you act right. I came to make sure you stop doing that. No, it had everything to do with people being in a place where they needed his help. And he said, I came for those people. He came to help people. And he said, I'm the one that wants to help people. That's my mission. That's what I came here to do. And so I want to give you a few truths about freedom today. And I hope that you hear this today, okay? First thing is this, is that Jesus came to free people who couldn't free themselves. He came to free people that couldn't behave their way out of it. That's not how freedom works, you know. And here's what I don't want you to do, okay? You might be listening to this, watching this, whatever, and you might be thinking, man, I really hope my wife hears this. I hope my husband, I hope that this person. No, this isn't about the other person. It's about you. So if you're thinking about what God wants to do in someone else's life instead of your life, you're missing it. Because God wants to do something in your life. He wants to do something in your life right now, today. The only person I want you to think of is you. Don't think of someone else. How can you be more free today? And this message, it's not for people whose lives are falling apart. I think we think that, like, well, my life's not, I'm generally okay, but here's what I know. You can be getting the kids ready and taking them to school, answering emails, paying the bills, sitting on the couch, serving at church, keeping everyone else in your house alive, and still know that something in you is not free. And you don't have to be in crisis to be poor in spirit. You just have to be honest enough to admit that you just can't fix it yourself. So here's what I mean. Shame, a lot of us deal with shame. You don't even realize it because you've been dealing with it for so long, but you have shame. And what we think is, a lot of times we think that if I'm going to get it together, I'm going to get a little distance between me and the mess that I'm in, and then I'm going to come to Jesus. I'm going to clean it up first. I'm going to fix this habit first. I'm going to get some space here, and then I'll come to God. But that's not how Jesus operated. Jesus actually says, come as you are, and let me change you. Come as you, let me change you. You need to be free. You have things holding you back, and you need Jesus. So Jesus, he came to free people who couldn't free themselves. The second thing is, the chains binding us are not always visible. You know, we hear the word prisoner, and we think like, oh, there must be a guy in an orange jumpsuit or a cell block, or, you know, someone's doing something to pay for the wrong that they did. And here's what I know, though, is that yes, there's some struggles we have that are visible, but some prisons don't really have bars. They're not really visible. Some prisons look like the anger you can't control, or the fear that has been controlling your decisions for a long time. Or maybe it looks like that shame that you just can't shake. A habit that you keep running to, or maybe this is a big one for a lot of people, your need for approval from others. Maybe it's unforgiveness. Maybe someone actually did something wrong to you, and what they did was bad. And you've been holding on to unforgiveness for too long, and it's eating you alive. Maybe you have a secret. Maybe you've done something and you're terrified that someone's going to discover this. And here's what I want you to understand, okay? All of us have chains. We all have chains on us in some way. Every person needs some sort of freedom. And what I've seen and what I know is that the chains that are on you right now, they're made up of two different types of chain links, okay? Two types, that's it. The first type is the chain links that are made up of the choices we've made. And let's just be honest, some people, we make bad choices. We do things, and those things have consequences. And those things set us on a course, and that's just a fact of life, okay? That I'm not trying to shame you, I'm not trying to embarrass you, I'm not trying to condemn you, but that's just a reality. I have things in my life that are there because of the decisions I've made. No one else. I'm the one to blame. But those things add up over time. And maybe the chains that you have around you, man, there's a lot of links made up of the choices that you've made. But then there's another type of link on that chain, and it's what someone else did to us. So we have the choices we've made. We forged those chain links, but then other people do something to us and they bind us up. This is the person that abused you. They treated you unfairly. They abandoned you. They spoke something over you when you were a kid. Maybe it was a coach or a teacher or a grandparent, aunt, uncle, mom, or dad, and they said something to you over as you were a kid. And that thing right now has just popped up in your head. And for some reason, you were 6, and that still sticks with you. And you've been living in that bondage for years, and it's dictated your life in more ways than you realize. Maybe a person took something from you. Maybe they gave you unfair expectations that you could never live up to. And that has shaped how you have lived your life since you were a child. And now you have these chains on you, and some of them are from the choices we've made. Some of them are from the choices someone else made and how they hurt us. But no matter what combination of links you might have that's wrapping you up right now in that chain, I want you to hear me. Jesus meets you in both places. He meets you in both places. So if you're carrying something today because of what someone else did to you, or you're carrying something today because of failure on your part, Jesus is meeting you right there. He wants to meet you right there. The last truth I want to talk about today is Jesus is the only one who provides freedom. He's the only one. And that's why he came. His first message, he stands up and he says, hey, I came to set people free. I came to help people who couldn't help themselves. He didn't come to leave you stuck, or he didn't come to leave you chained. He came to set you free. That's when he sits down and he goes, today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. I want to tell you that today, that scripture is still being fulfilled. I mean, it's still happening. Jesus is still setting people free. He's not saying, hey, someday freedom's coming. Hey, one day it's just going to happen. No, he's saying today, right now, I'm bringing freedom. And the same is true in your life. He is the freedom that you're looking for and that you need. Later on in Jesus' ministry, he says it even plainer. I love this. John chapter 8, verse 31, it says, if you hold to my teaching, you're really my disciples. And it says, then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So, and then he goes on in verse 36 and he says, so if I set you free, then you will be free indeed. I love this. He's saying, hey, when you find freedom through me, that's what freedom looks like. That's true freedom. It's not something that's fleeting. It's something that breaks these chains. And when there ain't no freedom like the freedom Jesus brings. If you boil down those chains, right? If you boil down what binds us, the things that hold us back, it's all rooted in sin. And sin is very, very powerful. That sin, it separates us from God. It keeps us from God. And the Bible teaches us that we can't behave our way out of that. You can't willpower your way out of the bondage of sin. You know, Jesus, he went to the cross and he was nailed on the cross and he willingly took on your penalty for sin and my penalty of sin. And he took on the full weight of it all. And he broke the power of sin. He rose from the grave, broke the power of death. And freedom actually begins the moment we stop trying to save ourselves and we actually surrender our lives to him. But here's the thing about freedom too, is that when Jesus saves you, he breaks that claim that sin has over your life immediately. But a lot of us, we still have to learn how to stop going back into that old jail cell that we've been living in for so long. You know, that's such an easy do. The door is open, but we choose to live there. It's comfortable to us in a weird way. And that's why freedom, it doesn't grow in isolation. It actually grows with being honest before God, and it grows best in community. And so I want to tell you today that we're actually doing something to help you in this part of your life. We're actually starting something in September, at the end of September, called Freedom. And it's a 12-week journey that we're asking you to go on, where God can begin to illuminate these things, begin to show you these things that are holding you back, and then he's going to deal with them as the good father that he is. And it's not a place of condemnation. It's not a place of rebuking you. It's a place of like, hey, I've paid for this and I want you free. And so this is a 12-week journey we're going to take as a church together. It's done in small groups, and we have leaders that have already gone through this. This has been about a 12, 18-month process. We've already had leaders go through it that are ready to take you on your freedom journey. Okay? And today I just wanted to kind of show you the beginning of this. Maybe God begins to show you some things right now that you need to be free from. Okay? So here's what I want to do as we kind of close out today. This week, if you have some, or actually you can just take some time as soon as this is over, and I want to give you a few questions that you can ask in order to allow God to begin to show you some things in your life that you need to be free from. All right? So I want you to think about these. I want you to ask these questions to the Lord in some prayer after this. Here's the first question. You're going to ask Jesus, is there any area in my life where I'm not living free? The sad thing is, a lot of us are unaware of the freedom that we don't have. Jesus, is there anything in my life where I'm not living free? Here's the second question. This is a big one. God, what have I been calling normal that you're calling captivity? What have I been calling normal that you're calling captivity? What are the things that I've just lived with for so long that I don't even realize it's captivity? Let God bring that up in your heart. And here's the last question. This is important. God, am I willing to let you lead me out? And if he says, I don't think you are, then you should say, God, then help me. You know, we're here for you. You're going to learn more about what it means to sign up for freedom. That's not what today's about. Today, I just want you to start thinking, what are the areas of my life where I need to be free? And I want you to genuinely ask God about it. All right? Hey, thanks for tuning in. So sorry about the glitch we had, or really, I just broke that thing, the SD card. Sorry about that, and you're having to hear it a different way, but I thought it was important enough to do this so that you guys can hear and see the journey our church is going on and what you're about to go on. All right? We love y'all. We'll see you Sunday.